ChatGPT and generative AI like it is going to be responsible for like 90% of content online by 2025. Over the course of this year, it's very possible that there will be some events and crises that they will try to frame that way. And I think at the end of the day, the solution that will be offered to the public is going to be, a regulated internet, increased control over internet, the end of the ability to have anonymity or privacy online, which of course is going to tie into the broader efforts to eliminate financial privacy as well.
As we rely more on AI for everyday decisions, like choosing shoes or understanding health issues, we unintentionally create a web of dependence. This reliance gives rise to a new feudal-like system. In the past, powerful figures had cunning ways to manipulate regular people. Now, as we use online platforms, we're unknowingly sharing information that ends up with those managing these platforms. It's not just about claiming the biggest piece of the digital pie, it's about molding a new societal order. Whitney Webb states this digital setup isn't static. It actively shapes information, reminiscent of how the old church controlled things. Even Elon Musk says AI is getting smarter than us and will take charge by 2025. It might sound wild, but with AI already a part of our lives, things changed in November when OpenAI released ChatGPT. This free chatbot talks like a human with super smart AI, showing us new ways AI might change our jobs, bodies, and minds. Whitney says it's not happening randomly. There's a plan to create a controlled reality, guiding people into specific ways of living. As you scroll through the internet, distinguishing between content created by humans and super smart computers is getting harder. It was once easy to spot computer-generated pictures or fake videos, but recent programs create almost perfect visuals, making the differentiation challenging. Henry Kissinger and Eric Schmidt predict that people will lose their cognitive faculties and become increasingly dependent on AI, leading to a future where they may not be needed anymore. Everything seems planned, and it's like they're controlling our minds. They're not just in control of the internet, they're ruling our lives. Stay tuned for clips from Whitney Webb's interview with Peak Prosperity. But before we jump in, please hit subscribe and turn on the bell for updates if you want more videos like this. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
What we're seeing is an effort to sort of herd the world towards what I would refer to as a neo-feudal model. So sort of going back to the same concentration of power that existed in the feudal era, or the dark ages of Europe, as it were, where you sort of have kings and you have sort of their enforcer class, and then you have a large serf underclass, and that the goal is to have basically those strata, the differences between them, enforced by technology. I think a key component of that is the efforts to control the flow of information, because in that era, right, the church dominated the flow of information and knowledge, and a lot of this was later, spread around and distributed to the serf class through the printing press and things like that, and now in modern iterations, the internet. And in order to bring things back to the neo-feudal era, the powers that be have to take complete control of the internet and the flow of information, and I think that's why we're seeing this increased push of sensorization, and also to have, AI, generative AI that they produce end up producing the lion's share of the content online. Those two things, I think, go together in order to sort of manufacture reality so that we're more easily controlled and herded into these various systems that they're setting up that will maintain the vast majority of the populace in this serf underclass. And a lot of the big establishment thinkers on AI have pretty much talked openly about how that technology is being used to create sort of the upper class, the kings of the data barons, I guess, of the modern era, as opposed to the oil barons of previous eras, and how, the people that control the data that AI trains on and the people that program and maintain AI will be sort of in this upper class, and that AI will act upon the lower class, and the lower class over time will become cognitively incapable of understanding what AI is doing to them and how it's molding their opinions, and will become dependent on AI for everything, and will not really be able to function without it, or even make their own decisions and know their own preferences without it. And this was laid out by people like former Google CEO Eric Schmidt, Henry Kissinger, figures of that variety, openly talking about how this is where this technology is taking us. So I think information is absolutely crucial to developing this neo-feudal model, precisely because If they can manipulate how humans perceive reality, they can fundamentally shape human behavior. And I think that's really the ultimate goal of this. And I think, during the COVID era, for example, that was a big boon for them in terms of like the lockdowns and all of that, because people weren't interacting so much with the real world. They were instead interacting with the online world chiefly, which they can manipulate more effectively and essentially create realities that don't necessarily exist and convince people that that's what's happening, and manipulate trust also. And as I'm sure you and your audience are aware, the big theme at like the World Economic Forum for the past several years, including this year, has been rebuilding trust and how to claim trust or reclaim trust among the people who have sort of, to varying extents, gotten wise to this essentially big power grab that's happening on the part of the elite right now. So narrative management is a big part of it. And the internet has been an issue for them in that regard, in terms of allowing whoever, anyone to publish information or read, and for people to read that information, hence the increased efforts to not just censor, but also have them through AI produce the lion's share of content.
As technology takes over our virtual world, relying only on online interactions can expose people to manipulated data and information. Currently, there's a growing trend of such manipulation. Futurism recently emphasized the age-old advice, don't believe everything you see on the internet. And a new report from European law enforcement group Europol warns that up to 90% of online content could be artificially generated by 2025. This synthetic media is created or altered using artificial intelligence. Social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, aren't solely utilized by people. Millions of robots or bots are also present on these platforms. These bots play a role in spreading fake news and making it seem more popular than it really is. For instance, in 2017, estimates showed 23 million bots on Twitter, 140 million on Facebook, and around 27 million on Instagram. These bots are designed to look like real people, making distinguishing between genuine and fake content challenging. But it doesn't end there. Whitney also observes that AI and data mining firms, often linked to intelligence agencies, create individualized profiles as part of a larger strategy. This strategy involves investing significant resources to build bot armies for influence operations within countries and internationally. Let's get back to the interview.
And then the other factor here in terms of the AI era in which we are stepping into is the potential for AI-generated people to say things they didn't actually say, or for events, through this whole Deepfake thing, to suggest that, certain realities exist when in fact they do not, which is, a whole different layer to all of this, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure is going to be very heavily weaponized, which is again why I think it's important for people to engage just as much in offline discourse as online discourse, just because if you are purely online and they are taking increased control of the virtual world, you're going to increasingly receive data and information that they are manipulating for their purposes. And I think right now we're seeing more of that than we truly ever have. Being offline and engaging with people and seeing how things really are outside of the online world, I think is more important than it's ever been. I think they have very individualized profiles on people that in part have been produced by AI and some of these big data mining firms that work for intelligence agencies like Palantir. And the goal of that is to basically the military and all of these groups, knowing that we know that they've invested millions of dollars in building essentially bot armies that are used to conduct influence operations. And we know they also do that against the domestic populace. And that, this was legalized under the Obama era. They lifted the domestic propaganda ban and all of these other things with the NDAA, or one of the NDAAs in the Obama era. And all of that can be pointed at the US populace domestically for the purpose of advancing what these guys say is in the US's national interest, but increasingly it's in, either the deep state or the power elite's best interest, which tends to be from preventing any sort of real change from happening that would lessen their power or prevent us from, going even further down this this path that we are on. Open season for psyops in a way it never has been. And, what I worry too, in this particular sphere is that there's an increased effort because of their efforts to regain trust. What they're seeking to do is sort of to co-opt or use or lend people that don't deserve it anti-establishment clout so that they can essentially act like they're going to deliver the change that people want. But they'll be delivering the same policies that their political bases are against, whether that's digital ID or programmable surveillable money, or things of that nature, while claiming that they're against those things. As an example, with like central bank digital currencies, there's also a dual effort by commercial banks to issue commercial bank digital currencies, which are also CBDCs under the names of deposit tokens or bank issued stable coins. And so, maybe figures like Trump and Ron DeSantis and some of these other figures have, said, if we're elected or in power, there will be no central bank digital currency. But are they against, JP Morgan issuing, deposit tokens or stable coins that are just as programmable and surveillable as what, the central bank could issue? And is that really any better for prosperity and liberty of Americans? Is it better to be surveilled by Wall Street and have them program your money than it is to have the Fed? Quite frankly, not, especially when you consider that people like Jamie Dimon, for example, have come out on record saying they think private property should be seized in order to meet, UN climate goals and things of that nature. It's really ultimately the same thing at the end of the day. And so I think we're going to see, various efforts to try and herd people into the same system. But in order to have that happen, they have to convince people that the initiatives they're supporting are actually against this control grid to an extent, by giving it different names and different appearances, but ultimately it's fundamentally the same.
In a world where the online world keeps changing and making people uneasy, precious metals stand out as a dependable and unchanging investment. Unlike the unpredictable changes happening on the internet, these metals are a stable anchor, not influenced by the complexities of the digital world. So, while the digital world evolves, precious metals remain a reliable investment choice. How do you see the role of precious metals in providing stability amid the evolving digital landscape? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you find this video informative, support our channel and stay tuned for more updates by turning on notifications. See you in the next video.